So I'm now going to start bringing our day to a close and just reflecting a little bit on what I think some of the key themes have been over the course of today's sessions. And I think for me, one of the things that we started off right at the beginning and that's been carried on with the theme, which is how important the hearts and minds argument is. So some of the questions we've had as we've gone through the day have really highlighted to me how vital it is that people at all levels, actually in our organisations, understand and are convinced that it's really worth and necessary to take this action because people from disadvantaged backgrounds are facing barriers that those from other groups do not face. And actually making that argument is crucial, because that's how we get the buy-in from everyone, from our chief executives down to hiring managers and colleagues. That's how we create that welcoming culture that we've all been hearing so much about that we need. And I think the second thing is about something that really struck with me this morning, was about recruiting for potential instead of past performance. And that felt like a kind of the incredibly practical thing that we have to do if we want to open up recruitment processes. It's to recognise that people who are coming from more disadvantaged backgrounds won't have the indicators of success that all of our traditional practices are geared towards identifying. And actually, I think we heard some really good examples of how we can change those initial practices to give people a chance to shine, to let people show what they can do, rather than looking at what they've been able to accumulate because of their background. I think it's quite interesting that within that recruitment conversation, it seemed as if it is slightly more straightforward to do that when you're recruiting in entry-level recruitment, but that people are now moving on to say, well, for experienced hires, we still need to be finding ways to do this. That felt to me like that's the kind of next frontier in terms of the recruitment piece. But I think it was an equally important how often culture's been mentioned. I think it's come up in every session. It's been such a theme that just changing processes, changing structures isn't going to achieve social mobility unless we change the culture people come into, unless it is truly welcoming. And that's linked, I think, to the progression piece that we've talked about. If you recruit in diverse people, but then they can only succeed by displaying some of the things that the report we've heard about has talked about, the kind of cultural references, the ability to work ambiguous situations. If progression still depends on those things, actually those more diverse people we bring in are not going to succeed. They're not going to become our future leaders, and that is what we need to achieve. And I think probably the final thing that's really struck me is how often these two key ingredients have been coming through of leadership, so having visible, committed, sustained leadership at every level of the organisation, and data. So having, that kind of old saying that what gets measured gets done. How important it is to have as good a data as we can, both to set the ambition, to be able to put a number on it, even if it's a bit arbitrary, put some number that says here's what we're aiming for, and track whether we are achieving, whether the things we're doing are achieving change. And actually, if you've got the leadership and the data, that seems to be what's really opened up some of the great practice that we've heard in the civil service, but I think also elsewhere we've heard about quite a few other employers who are clearly really driving this forward. So I think those are the things that for me have been most striking of what we've talked about. So to finish, I want to thank all of our speakers. I think they've all been excellent. They've all brought really amazing insight and ideas to us today. Lots and lots to think about, lots of practical points. Now, as we said, we're going to be circulating the videos and the presentation. So all of these resources that our speakers have been pointing us towards and saying, have a look at this, have a look at that, you're going to get all of that emailed to you. And we're also going to be emailing out the survey at the end of this to find out how this day has been for you. And it's be brilliant if you could all just take a few minutes to fill that in, because it will really help Dods to keep improving these events. And finally, I just want to really thank Kieran and the Dods team who've put together the event for us today, who've kept it moving through so brilliantly and have given us all such an interesting, stimulating day to focus in on this issue. So thank you very much to you, Kieran, and to your team, and to all of you for coming today and for all of your wonderful questions. Thank you. Bye-bye.